Islam. It's called passive worship. And it's as much as important as the positive one. And by passive worship, we mean remaining or refraining away, staying away from things that Allah has forbidden. That's a form of passive worship. And we will go into that in relation to this topic too. Now, Allah has created human beings in pairs. See, the unique quality of being oneness, only belongs to Allah. Allah does not need partners. He does not have partners. And this true notion of monophony only exists in Islam. Although there are a few more other monotheistic religions such as Judaism and Christianity, but when you go to details with those religions, you will see that they're not truly monotheistic, because they assign, directly or indirectly, partners to God, as the notion of Trinity, all these other things. Even in Judaism, they say things like, such and such prophet is the son of God and things like that. So Islam, in essence, the true religion of monotheism. In no circumstances we assign partners to God. Not just physical partners, but in doing, in acting too. God has no partners in anything. So he created us as human beings in pairs. What that means is we need each other. He created us in a way, male and female. So we need each other. We need each other's company. And through halal means, Allah has opened the path for us to be together as well. Even right from the beginning, when we look the creation of Sayyidina Hazrat Adam and his wife, Zawj, Hawa, you see that partnership begins right from the beginning. And according to hadiths and the Quran, Hawa, our mother, the original mother, was created from the rib bone of Adam. Yeah? So, in essence, we were one anyway. I want to start by reading a verse from the Holy Quran. It's the 30th chapter, 21st verse. And among his signs is this, that he created you mates from among yourselves, that you may dwell in peace and tranquility with them. And he has put love and mercy between your hearts. Verily, in that are signs for those who reflect. Now, the above verses of the Quran lay out the framework for basis and the objectives of marriage in Islam. In the ultimate wisdom of Allah, we are first told that we are both partners, man and woman, are created from the same source, and that this should be paid attention to as it is one of his signs, divine signs. The fact that we come from the same soul signifies our equality as humans. You know how some people brag about in Islam women and men not being equal and all this, they're all lies, of course. Because in essence, Islam regards both males and females as equals in all types of rights. From a Judaistic perspective, we are all equal. There's no difference. Physically, we are different, of course. There are certain things that men can do, women can't. There are certain things that women can do, men can't, because we created differently. But from a rights point of view, we are all equal. When the essence of our creation is the same, the argument of who is better or greater is redundant. There's no such a thing, who is better or who is greater. As our noble prophet says, peace and blessings be upon him, human beings are like the teeth of the clock. They are all equal size. He says, greatness, being better, comes with taqwa. Whoever has a higher rank by the side of Allah, he or she is at a higher level. We have to understand this truth. To stress on this fact, and then to talk about marriage in the same verse is of great significance for Muslims. Both the Quran and the Sunnah encourage Muslims to get married. We know this. We know that our Prophet encouraged. So what is the appropriate process that should be followed in Islam in regards to getting to know each other? Now this is the really issue that we want to talk about, yeah? In today's society, many Muslim men and women speak to each other in secret. You know, through phone conversations, you know, through internet, like places of chat, Facebook, and face to face, and try to establish a respectful relationship before marriage. This happens in our society today. They do this for two reasons. Why do they do it in secret generally? You know, especially speaking about the Muslim woman or Muslim girls, you know. If they're speaking to someone, how many of them think about it, would go and inform their parents about it? You know, I'm speaking to this guy. No chance, yeah. Most of them won't say nothing. They do this for two reasons. First one, they are afraid of what their parents or other Muslims may think. Two, they want to make sure that they are compatible with the person they are speaking to before they take further steps. Now, from what does Islam say about this? From the fiqh, Islamic law perspective, this is a sin. Islam does not permit a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship because there are many risks associated with this. So in Islam, like the Western world, there is no such a thing as boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. First, we have to understand this. The most common excuse used, we are doing the same course, we are at the same workplace, I'm only getting the lecture notes from him or her, you know, and so on. This happens all the time. Some young people consider it as we are talking only on the internet. What harm is in it? They come up with this argument a lot too. Moreover, on the internet you see sites, you know, like Muslim matchmaking sites. I don't know how they get the fatwa to do this too. You know, it sounds like, okay, some people may think, what's wrong with that? You know, you don't see each other face to face, you know. It's a thing, technological means to get to know each other, perhaps, you know, form a marriage. Is there a harm with that? Is there, you know, from a Sharia's point of view, is there a harm with that? That's what people think. Well, there are certain harms with that. These excuses, unfortunately, do not take the sins away. It doesn't make it halal, these excuses. So what are we supposed to do in this modern age where interaction is inevitable? That's another fact that we face. We can't say, you know, we're not living on top of the mountains or in jungles. We have to interact with each other. We have to interact with each other at school, at work, in society. That's the reality. But as Muslims, how do we go about it? You know, what's the balance should we apply there? Yes, the work, school environment, and so on. We need to interact with each other. We are always in society and seeing each other and speaking to each other, and this is unavoidable. Well, no one will tell you to go to extremes from an Islamic point of view. No one is asking you to go to extremes. You know, you can't put a blindfold and walk in society or in school. You have to interact, that's the reality. However, as a Muslim, both man and woman, male and female, one should follow certain rules and always remember what Allah is pleased with. So remember at the beginning we talked about passive worship. So as Muslims, as true believers, inshallah, we have that strong faith inside us. The first principle we follow, whatever we do in life, we do to please Allah, no one else. That should be your first aim. It should go all the way to a fine detail where you should be thinking, am I sitting right? would Allah be happy with the way that I sit? Would Allah be happy with the way I walk, the way I talk, the way I smile, all the way to this little detail? So when you take this example, put it into relationships to the thing that always should be in your subconscious, am I doing the right thing here? Is Allah happy with the way I'm behaving in this situation? These are very important. Now, the rules are, I made a few rules here and put them just to repeat them here, inshallah. Number one is make sure that the interaction between male and female is always on a professional level. Whether you're at work, whether you're at school, it should be on a professional level. If you are speaking on the phone, as a Muslim, you should really keep it short and go right to the point. I'm not being too extremes here. You're not feeling this is too harsh, too strict. But that's from a fiqh point of view, that's the reality. So if we need to speak to our friend from school, if it's to do with our classes or with our lectures, we try to keep it short, we go on to the point. We're not supposed to open up, topics that are out of context. You're asking about a biology class, and then you go, what type of music do you like? See? And then that will lead to other things. That's the reality as well. Now, always think about the person that you're speaking to from an Islamic point of view as your sister or brother. Now, that's a hard one. That is a hard one, brother. Now, I will give you one example about this. This is a very interesting example. Now, you guys have some knowledge about this Jamaat who built these schools. The Selimiya Foundation, we have a lot of different serious colleges. We have colleges in Sydney, all over Australia. And this Jamaat has a certain system and ideology. And the first aim of this Jamaat was to promote education all over the world. And not distinguishing people, as Muslims, non-Muslims. Take education to everyone, and take Islam through representation. Not through talking, not through preaching, but through representation. And people will run to you when they see the beauty of Islam. Now, when this started many years ago, one of the first groups of teachers, they went to the old Soviet Unions and different parts of Russia. And I remember I was speaking to one person who went there, and he was a young person too. He was only in his 24, 25. He was a new teacher too. And he started at a school there, and it was all Russian province. Everyone was Russian around him, non-Muslims, And where he stayed at an apartment. Right next door, there was this Russian girl, and, one of the, and over a time, going to school, coming back, seeing each other on the way, and this girl sort of started getting a liking towards this person, this teacher. And she would always make up her time so they could, cross paths on the road and things like that. But this brother, he would even, when he saw her coming, he would put his head down and pass just like this. And one day she had enough. This really occurred, And she just blocked his path. And she said, "What's wrong with you?" Russian girl. She said, "Am I not beautiful? Or the second thing, are you not a man?" That's what she said. And then you know what he replied? He said, "Look, sister," to a non-Muslim girl, Russian girl. He said, "Look, sister, I know that many people came here after the collapse of the Soviet Union. They came through different means, but they came for different reasons. They came to stain your chastity, your namus. They came to stain you, to put filth on you. But we came to purify you, not to stain you." And then he just walked away. "I look at you as a sister," he said. few years later, they got married. but the way she approached him was different. You know what I mean? Because they don't know anything about Islam and how things work. Her approach was different. At the end, through halal means, and she became a Muslim too. She converted. They got married. So there are right paths and there are wrong paths to follow certainly. So we said, remember you said all when I said, you got to look at them as brothers and sisters. But there's a question here too which I put. How about if you feel something towards this person? You have certain feelings towards the other person, and perhaps have intention of a future, maybe a marriage, engagement marriage, towards this person. Maybe you have different feelings. So how do you approach that then? Now, it is sunnah in Islam for people who intend to get married to see each other. It's sunnah in Islam. The opposite is not thinkable anyway. Even if you look at our Prophet's life, ﷺ, when people came and asked for the hand of Fatima, his beloved daughter, he allowed them to see each other. You can't. We have some tradition in our different countries, arranged marriage, sometimes they even just show a photo. It happens in Turkey too, especially in eastern Turkey. That happens to some people here too. You know what's the worst case? They show a photo, you get there, you see a different person. This is not really Islamic. This is not really Islamic. So according to the Sunnah, of course you are supposed to meet each other. You're supposed to see each other. You're supposed to see if you're compatible. You're supposed to see if there's some chemistry there. There's some future there. You know how people say, especially imams and hojas, there is special blessing in marriage. It will be okay. Don't worry about it. That's not true. Yes, there is a blessing in marriage too, but certain conditions should be there too. This is my personal view. According to all my research, this is my personal view. There should be love there too. You know what I mean? There should be compatibility there too. Compatibility. I think these are important things too. If you don't have them, you get married, a few months later you get divorced, you destroy the life of someone. Is that better? Is that a better path to take? No. So, yes, those who are thinking of a future with a spouse, with a partner, they should meet each other. However, there are certain rules with them in fiqh. You do not meet each other behind doors, all alone. That's one of the wrong things in Islam. And this is a sensitive issue because this is a weakness of humanity. There's one famous scholar, he makes this statement and it's very interesting. He says, if they left me without food for 3 days, if they gave me nothing to eat for 3 days, starved me, and then placed me inside a baker shop, locked the doors, it's someone else's baker. He said, I would not even touch a loaf of bread because it's someone else's, it's haram, although he's starving. But he goes, I seek refuge in Allah being with a woman alone in one room. It's a different thing. It's a dangerous and sensitive issue. Because as soon as you are all alone by yourselves, there's another person there. That's shaitan. He's not going to stay free. He's going to start whispering all sorts of things into your ear and into your heart from a point called Lumay Shaitaniya, which we all have in our hearts. It's going to whisper, and it can lead to bad things. So, yes, there is a relationship before marriage in Islam. However, it's done on a high level, a respectable level. If there's other people around, all right, you can see each other, and you can speak to each other. weigh each other out. You know, are we really suitable for each other? There's nothing wrong with those. So Islam permits that as long as there's supervision, as long as there are no risks there. Now, there are many things. Why is it so risky? There are many different forms of zina in Islam. And you know what zina is. Yeah? But people understand zina as in a wrong way too. But straight away they only think about adultery and things like that. There are many forms of zina. One of them is zina through looks, through gaze. That's a form of zina. If you have ill intentions in you and look at someone in that manner, that's still a zina. Zina through just touching, that's still zina. So there are various forms of zina. I think in one hadith, I heard that when a man touches a woman's hand, a stranger, you know, not your relative or something, it's like grabbing a handful of fire from hell, from Jahannam. So there are various types of zinas, you know, it's not just, you know, don't think of just adultery straight away. The reason that Islam approaches this issue very sensitively is this. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La taqrabu zina. And the interpretation of this is this. Do not approach zina. Do not approach unlawful relationships. This is interesting. The Quran does not say, do not commit zina. It says, do not approach it. Do not be in areas where there's a risk of zina. See? Because Quran knows the human weaknesses. Allah knows this. Now think about it saying this. You know, I'll go and play soccer in the minefield. You know what I mean? There's a big risk that you're going to step on a mine, guaranteed. So if you take this risk too, if you approach places where there is zina, or if you go into situations where it could happen, it will most probably happen. You're in danger of committing it. So that's why Islam puts certain barriers there. Respectable relationships. And I want to read you a few hadiths too, they're very important too. Now, scholars suggest that zina, the term zina, includes salacious looks, touch and sexual activity done through unlawful means. Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, a famous scholar, some of you might have heard of him, one of the greatest scholars of last century. He talks about human emotions and senses. Now technically, from a biological perspective, if I say to you, how many senses do you have? You would reply as 5, yeah? You know, sight, smell, you know, taste, hearing, and touch, 5 senses. But Bediüzzaman says we have over 1,000 senses as human beings, over 1,000 emotions. And they are called Latifei Rabbaniye. We're not just made up of heap of matter, you know, a whole composition of proteins. That's not what we are. Human beings have something else in them. The other day I went to a conference in Ringwood. You know where Ringwood is? An organization called Winscare organized this thing for its workers. They do it annually. They're Christians, Catholics, and they have over 600 workers. And this year, they decided that there should be a Muslim responder there as well. And the topic they had that day, this is a few days ago, was how can we promote spirituality in this secular society? Because these people are having problems with spirituality. Everything has turned into materialism. And I went there were 4 speakers. There was one Catholic, one Anglican, and one, I think, a lecturer from a university. She was a Catholic too, there was 3 people, and then one Muslim, that was me. And thank Allah, they left me last to speak. Being last is very important. And I followed all their speeches, you know, very academic, you know, highly academic, but people were all sleeping. They got their papers in front of them. Well, this year we have did this. Everyone was sleeping. And then we got up there, and alhamdulillah, Allah helps straight away, things like that. We're not speaking, Allah makes you speak in that situation. And you're speaking to 600 non-Muslims, And I talked about the soul and the problems that we have. And I said, before you can promote spiritualism, first you have to know what spiritualism is. We don't even know it ourselves, I said to them. These days in this modern society, people do not even believe in the existence of a soul. They don't even believe that they have a spirit. Many years ago, I remember, I think about 4 years ago, I was speaking to this biologist friend of mine. He was from Turkey. His name was Ali, I'll never forget him. You know what he used to say? He used to say, I am a kafir. He used to say it openly. It's very sad. And he was doing his doctorate here in the Melbourne University. He was a non-believer. He didn't believe in nothing. And one day we sat down, there were a few more people too, we were talking about, creation, Allah. And he said, I don't believe in Allah. I said, why? He goes, because biology said so. And I said to him, look, I'm not a biologist, but we'll sit down. And he's doing his doctorate. I said to him, let us talk about biology only and talk about Allah. We spoke about like 1.5 hours. He was finished. People were laughing at him at the end. He fell into that situation. There was one point I said to him, from a biologist's point of view, can you describe the identity of a human being? What's the identity of a human being from a biological point of view? He said to me, it's the brain. So if you be at spiritualism, what else you're going to think? You say, the brain. That is your identity. That's what they say. This is what non-Muslim or non-believing scientists say. You know what I replied to? It's a very interesting thing. You can use this